Yeah.
So now let's go to the second matter in the court.
But you agree that it is not a legislation that has just come into force.
A very serious matter in which former officers of the NCA and the National Security, Baffoe-Bonnie, William Tevie, Osman, of course, the businessman George was exonerated, and then Mr. Esau was also exonerated and acquitted by the Court of Appeal. And as you know, these people are the ones who have been put in jail, the three of them. So, by your reading of the Mr. Afenyo-Markin, by your reading of the judgments of the court so far, Eric Bafoe's court, what do you make of what has happened to these officers, former officers of state?
In what sense, sir? Place your question properly. I want to understand it, sir.
This is a shot in the arm for the fight against corruption, is it not?
Well, they have their lawyers, and there has been reading the judgments, 48 or so, a 66-page judgment. There has been back and forth. At the point in the judgment, the judge talks about law reforms, how to ensure speedy trials and doing away with petty issues that would delay the court's time and all that. Well, fortunately we have Dr. Yeni here. I remember the famous Tagore and Issa Abbas. You know, High Court made a determination. They went on appeal. They were successful. We must continue to challenge the law. At a point, the judge found as fact that, yes, some monies went into some of the accused persons. They had opportunity to even refund and more or less mitigate. But they
That's William Tevie, $200,000.
Yes, and this brings to mind this issue of plea bargain. Whether or not issues like this, if you are willing to get your lawyers to sit with the AG, you could possibly get away with non-custodial sentence. So it is a court, not a political party. I've heard some lawyers making their own commentary about this. I would urge them strongly that any disagreement thereof, they should quickly file the appeal and get the system running.
Okay.
It is the best way to go any day. You can make all the arguments. Look at the people who sometimes follow us to court when we have a case, criminal matters. If they come to court today, they come to court tomorrow. When you are jailed, they won't go to Nsawo Muchu. Your lawyer will not go to Nsawo Muchu. What will be important for you is to look at the law and explore. You don't give up. So, to me, the people out there must not see this as a political issue. The NDC as a party must not, go on that tangent that, because these were appointees in the NDC era, we think this or that. After all, Abu Gapele was a member of parliament, an NDC senior member, but it was in the NDC era that he was tried and eventually jailed. So let us separate politics from crime. So
what they are saying exactly by what you just mentioned is that there's a lot of it happening now, the corruption you are pointing to, which led to this people being put on trial. And they say the real test of your fight against corruption is not prosecuting former appointees, it's prosecuting appointees within your regime.
Okay, so that now takes us again back to politics and speculation. Is it that they have filed a complaint with evidence of corruption or evidence of criminal conduct, and the Special Prosecutor's Office has failed to act on it. You see, Samson, we are on a political turf. I cannot take that away from them. They will continue to say it. We will also continue to say it.
What do you
but at the end of the day, the real test is being able to subject it.
What do you make about commentary by members of the public that suggests that the sentences they got, you know, were not deterrent enough? They faced 17 charges. Baffoe-Bonnie eventually had 8 charges. William Tevie had 8 charges. Afenyo-Markin, he had 7 charges. And George has 6 charges. If you look at Baffoe-Bonnie, on the charge of causing financial loss, he could have gone to jail for 10 years. He was given 5 years for that. If you look at using public office for profit, he could have gone to jail for 10 years. He was given 5 years for that. The procurement breaches that they were found also, he could have gone to jail for 5 years. He was given 3 years. Misapplying public funds, he could have gone to jail for, 10 years? He was given 6 years, is it? Yeah. He could have gone for 5 years. He was given 3 years. And then money laundering, could have gone for 10 years. He was given 6 years. If you look at that, that's a trajectory. William Tevie, 8 counts. Financial loss, he could have gone for 10 years. He was given 5. Procurement breaches, he could have gone for 5 years. He got 3 years. Misapplying public funds, he could have gone for 5 years. He got 3 years. Osman, the national security man, could have gone for 10 years for loss. He got 5 years. Procurement, he could have gone for 5 years. He got 3 years. And then misapplying public funds, he could have gone for 5 years. He got 3 years. Of course, George was exonerated from all of them. So if you look at it cumulatively, all of them, could have suffered a total of 80 years in jail if the max was used. 80 years in jail for all of them. But they got 16 years in total, all of them together.
Let me read from
people say people are stealing goats and things, and you are putting them in, and these people have gotten involved in $4 million, and this is how you treat them.
That is the court. I don't speak for the court.
Of course.
Yes,
we are discussing it. This one is now.
Right. So that's the court. It's the court that has delivered the verdict. So let's look at page 65 of the judgment. Quote, I further proceed to make a consequential order under section 61A of SMCD 140 as I find it necessary to make an order for the seizure and forfeiture to the Republic of any asset of the convicted persons to the tune of $3 million with $1 million out of the $4 million having been recovered. The AG is to take steps to enforce this order of the court.
Right.
So I hold the view that because perhaps the court took notice of this, that some recovery has been made and has made some consequential orders that they should proceed on seizure and forfeiture, giving maximum sentences would not be the most appropriate position to take in exercising a discretion. Put that aside. I know for a fact that over the last, for the past 10 years or so, Leonard, Deputy Attorney General, is here. The posture of our court has been to minimize its emphasis on custodial sentence. So it doesn't come as a surprise that the court would look at all factors surrounding the case and taking a decision on this. I mean, I've handled cases that judges handed out minimum sentencing to the accused person.
So Dominic, what do you say to the public who say if you are poor, you know, you are treated badly by our system and the courts, but if you are rich and you are influential in society, you get treated with kid gloves. What do you say about that? He mentions that because they are retrieving the $3 million, that is a factor. But the court didn't say that is a factor. What the court said was a factor was there? The court said, considering the mitigating factors, and he said the mitigating factors include that they are first offenders, and it looks like questions of their health, and they mostly didn't make personal gain from the money that was being talked about.
Yes, Samson, thank you very much. I think at the beginning you asked my learned friend a question about whether or not this decision in its totality is a shot in the arm for the fight against corruption. I want to put it, very, very clearly that this case, in respect of the issue of corruption, it was only the charges of stealing and then using public office for private gain. That
stealing didn't wash for anybody.
It didn't wash for anybody.
Right.
All right. Most of them, I think, most of them were discharged on the issue of using, a public office for private gain. Okay. In the case of Tevie, that's why I was looking at the copy of the judgment when you were speaking. In the case of Tevie, there was no finding made that he received $200,000. Okay, because remember that Tevie was represented by my able junior, Mr. Eduji Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, and there was no such finding that was made against our client. In fact, something I was a bit cautious.
Was that Baffoe-Bonnie then?
It was I think it was Baffoe-Bonnie,
right,
but I was a bit cautious
because
at the beginning.
The court was of the view when it was about sentencing.
Yes.
I think, yes, he got 6 years.
That is so.
Yes, so yes. He was the one. The court was of the view that there was an opportunity for him early enough to repair some of, because he was recalcitrant, doesn't want to give out the money and all of that. Right.
Well, but the question is, under cross-examination, we made it abundantly clear that he had not received any money, from the businessman, and the record showed very clearly that that was the case. So I was even surprised at the finding that was made by the judge. Of course, if the judge looks at the totality of the evidence and comes to that conclusion, I mean, it is within his right to do so. But of course, we are appealing against the decision, and that's why I was going to say that I don't know where to draw the ethical boundaries now, because my firm represented Mr. Tevie in this matter.
Since you have not appealed,
we are filing. We've indicated very clearly that we are filing a notice of appeal. But I must say that the judgment cannot be supported by the evidence.
Really?
Yes, the judgment cannot be supported by the evidence. Now, look at it this way, Samson. If you are talking about the offense of charging, causing financial loss to the state, all right? In the, I think it must have been the Quality Grain case, where Modibo Okran made it, clear that it must be a situation in which the conduct of the public officer in question has injured the state financially. What injury has been caused to the Republic of Ghana in this transaction?
There's $4 million from NCA's account.
Something. Can you let me land? You see, there is a transaction. There is a local company that is representing an Israeli company.
Right.
All right. And it is through that local company that monies are transferred to the Israeli company.
The monies were transferred directly to the local company.
Yes, and so there was no agreement that the Israeli company be paid directly the $4 million. So it must have been the local company receiving it, and as agent of the Pegasus, and then giving those monies to the Israeli company.
There was a contract.
Yes, and so the point is this: okay, when monies have been paid to an agent, all right, it is deemed that the principal has received the money. So if the principal then later on writes to NCA requesting payment, the correct thing to have happened in the circumstances would have been for NCA to say, we have fully paid under the contract, the money is with your local agent, kindly ask your local agent to transfer the money to you.
Not exactly a local agent, a reseller. And this reseller also is in court and gives evidence to the effect that
very well
gives evidence to the effect that the $4 million that was given to me, I paid $1 million to the company in Israel, and subsequently I needed to make further payments, but there were some, paper documentation problems with EcoBank and the rest. So it was frustrated. I was not able to make the payment.
And that is where I find it very, intriguing that a court of competent jurisdiction despite all these facts that are in the public domain and some of which were put before the judge, will come to the conclusion that financial loss has been caused to the state. Because, look at this, the state has taken the full benefit of the equipment. As we speak now, the Pegasus system equipment is in the possession of the Republic of Ghana. So the Republic has taken the full consideration
We'll interrogate that because the Deputy National Security Coordinator denies that there is any evidence of the existence of the system.
Oh,
he says there was no handing over notes. That shows that it's been handed to them.
Of course. I mean, this is politically disingenuous.
But you are saying, that in a situation where the state funds in the tune of 4 million,
yes,
have left the NCA's coffers,
right?
There is no record of a discussion or institutional budgetary support for that money to move out.
Yes.
You have someone whose procurement threshold limit is just to buy paper and canopy toner for things, who says, you know, there was some exemption and I approve. He can't show the exemption for the approval. And there is no ratification of that money. There's no budget. There's nothing. It doesn't show. You are saying that's not causing loss?
It's not exactly the case that there was no budget for it. Okay, that purchase, okay, featured in the budget of the NCA, I think for the year 2016.
No.
It did feature.
No, the records were submitted to the court, and it didn't feature in any of the records.
I mean, sorry, if I had sufficient time, I would have brought the record that we have in our possession.
The records were put in
and
the
the cross-examination, by Mr. Tamaklo. All right.
So did you conduct the case yourself? Or Tamaklo?
Hold on. Yeah.
Tamaklo conducted the case.
You were not involved at all.
Sorry.
I will take professional responsibility to the extent that he's my junior in chambers and that our law firm, Ayina and Feli law offices represented the second accused person. But from the records that I have seen and read, okay, it is not true that the amount of 4 million for the purchase of the Pegasus system did not feature in the records of the NCA. They did feature.
According to the court record, what you are referring to does not exist anywhere. They presented budgets 2016,
right,
2015, all of those budgets, the amount for the purchase of the Pegasus system was not captured. That's the record of the court.
Yeah. So what is the legal consequence of that? Because you see, you've given a fact pattern showing that there was no record of it, but that it was purchased. All right. What is the legal, the probable legal consequence of the lack of records? Okay, with relation to the offense of causing financial loss to the state. The question is not if you say they have done something that has caused financial loss. So you are dealing with procurement breaches, for instance, all right. But you cannot say that as a consequence of the records not being in the possession of NCA, all right, they have caused financial loss to the state by their conduct. When the state has taken the full benefit and consideration of the transaction. Okay, and then in any case, the Israeli company was fully entitled to sue Infralux for, the money because they were the local reseller. And if they received the consideration and failed to transfer it, then it was, just a question of a civil action against, the local company and not a criminal, prosecution. And so, as I said, I don't want us to go deeply into the merits.
Was it the local company that did the bid, that put in the bid?
You see, the complicated nature of this, transaction is that it was a national security transaction. Procurement in relation to national security cannot be done in the open manner in which normal procurements are done. Okay, in the US, for instance, the Defense Department procurement rules are treated differently from any other department.
But wouldn't there be at least some small record to show that some discussion has gone on about it, except somebody...
But Samson, what is the legal consequence of the lack of discussion?
Somebody saying that national security has taken the view that there is cyber activity going on in the cyberspace of Ghana and terrorism, and then they just speak by word of mouth to another person and say, we need to do this, and
there was correspondence. There was correspondence between National Security and NCA. And that correspondence is a discussion. It's documentary discussion of the need, the public interest need in the, procurement of the Pegasus system. And so that alone should have found the basis. The court should have looked at that record to say that, there was, some exchange of, letters between National Security and then NCA on this matter.
There was some letter that said we need institutional support to purchase a system for surveillance or terrorism, counterterrorism work. That was earlier in time considered, but they were told that we don't have money. Once our finances improve, we shall consider it.
So something you see that
once our finances improve, we shall consider it. So that was not part of it. You see that the assertion that there was no discussion whatsoever is in itself palpably wrong, because from what you yourself have just said, okay, there was an earlier request to NCA to make funds available to the National Security National Security
coordinator?
No, the National Security Coordinator, okay, with respect to the purchase of the Pegasus system. And so it doesn't matter how far historically in time this was made, but there was some correspondence on the matter.
I write a letter to request for support financially, and then it gets considered. I'm told that we don't have money. Once our finances improve, we can consider it.
Right.
How does that end up being somebody calling a finance person in the institution, asking them to begin to transfer monies without any board approval, nothing? And then this goes on, and yet when the 4 million is made available, only 1 million gets sent to the company abroad.
Something who considered the first letter and wrote back? Was it not the board of NCA? It was the board of NCA. So if subsequently the chief executive and the board chairman, and other principal officers of the organization think that, look, we now have money to be able to help the National Security Coordinator with the purchase of this, and they take a decision on it, how can a court of competent jurisdiction then run away from that document and say there was no discussion whatsoever? And in any case,
all right, but you can't connect that document to the purchase. Why? If you can't connect it to the purchase, we have not approved any money. We have subsequently not ratified any money for the purchase.
Yes.
In our budget, there's no budgetary allocation. 2015, 2016, no budgetary allocation. So where is that all coming
maybe
from?
We need a whole show for me to bring the record.
National security,
yes,
if it needs to do things, it should not be captured in any budget. And that even the procurement process,
interestingly,
the procurement system, just one person meeting you somewhere and saying,
let me say
this system is good. You just say, bring money, we go buy it.
It's something. Let me say this. You see, I am one person in Parliament, at committee, and so on. I have always argued for upholding the principles of probity and accountability, and for transparency in public transactions. But I am also someone who takes state secrets and state confidentiality very, very seriously. And so for me, I have always argued that even the Defense and Interior Committee, their budget hearings should not be public. Their submission of reports, especially if they concern procurement of security, surveillance equipment and so on, should not be in public. Because you see, now we have a very sophisticated, criminal, we have very sophisticated criminals in the system. So if you, for instance, say that, oh, you know what, I am going to procure a Pegasus system in order to, conduct, a surveillance. Very quickly, anybody who wants to, to engage in a criminal enterprise will begin researching around the Pegasus system and how to beat it.
But that would stop people from going to PPA.
No. I'm not saying that it should not, but we need to have a system, okay, that protects the security and confidentiality of such procurement.
Really?
Yes, we need to. Parliamentary committees can meet in camera.
And again, let's not forget that it becomes clear by way of the facts that you are procuring a Pegasus system, and the Pegasus system, if you check, it is that system that is able to stay wherever it is installed and remotely interfere with your private communication, even your WhatsApp, and remotely interfere with all your documentations on your communication system.
Yes.
at the time we were going to purchase this, we had shut down the spy bill.
Spy bill, yes.
There was no legal basis to bring in that sort of system to interfere with people's things. And when it came, where was it installed? According to the evidence, it was installed in Baba Kamara's house. How is that possible?
What do you mean by how is that? He was a national security coordinator. He was the national security coordinator. All right, and I don't know whether you are by saying that it was installed in his house, it is to suggest that it was for his private use. It wasn't for his private use. It was for him as a national security coordinator, to be able.
I think you have
no advisor. Sorry, I'm mixing up. Thanks for the correction. To be able to be able to from his house, okay, do the work. No. But let me know. No. He's as national security advisor.
You know when to concede.
Please, can you hold on?
I know you. You know when to concede.
The evidence shows that when it was brought, somebody was made to go help with the inspection. Please, can you?
Yeah.
So with the inspection at SEP's office at AFGO, DHL, and that when the equipment was cleared, it was sent to the house of Baba Kamara for installation by 6 Israelis. The equipment after its installation was confirmed by him to Baffoe-Bonnie that it was successful. The court then asked the question of the Duncan Opari, the Deputy National Security Coordinator now, and he testifies that the inventory of equipment at the National Security Secretariat did not show that it had such an equipment for cyber security, not having received any handing over notes. So where do we go now? People are asking the question.
Did they go to Baba Kamara's house, and did they ask Baba Kamara where the equipment was? Okay, because he's a former state official, a former national security advisor. And if there is evidence that the equipment was installed in his house, now that he has ceased to be the national security advisor, the equipment should be taken to and installed at the house or the office, wherever he chooses, of the current national security advisor. Did they do that? You see, without taking that step and coming to tell the court that your inventory shows that the equipment is not there, all right, smacks of bad faith. Because as a national security, they should be able to go to Baba Kamara and ask him where the equipment is, because there's evidence that it was installed in his house by 6 Israelis.
What do you say to those who suggest that Baba Kamara ought to have been, in part of this prosecution?
Well, I have looked at the record. I do not know. I do not see any, for instance, letters, from him, okay, or any documentary evidence connecting him directly, to the transaction. And so, in a criminal prosecution, the exercise of your prosecutorial power must be done, advisedly. You don't want to rope people in just because they are remotely connected to a transaction.
That's very interesting. But as you say, this will definitely be challenged. So we haven't seen the end of it yet.
Very, very much so.
All right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. It does appear we underestimated the time that we could use to do 3 different judgments and look at the Supreme Court justice nominees. So we have the case that you did. What's your choice? Do we do briefly about that one, or talk about the nominees for Supreme Court and then shelve one for next week? Which one will be your pick? Well, your case?
Any of them is good for me. I don't have any. I don't have any problem.
So you are clearly dissatisfied with the Supreme Court decision. You think they didn't stick to the intent of the legislator and the Constitution as regards the retirement age?
Thank you very much, Samson. I am extremely disappointed with the decision, okay, on 3 grounds.
And of course, again, I made an introduction and I think I mixed up my communication of it. There is a decision which is a decision of the court. That's a majority decision. It's a decision of the court. There are dissenting opinions. That's fine. But there are no 2 decisions. There's 1 decision, but dissenting opinions that were also shared. Yeah.
Okay. So before I go on, I want to share some piece of information. The Honorable Baba Kamara has just sent me a text message in which he says that the equipment was not installed in his house, but it was installed in his warehouse, and subsequently the BNI came and inspected, the equipment and took it away. That's what he has just said.
I think an issue was sticking about that issue. First, it was sticking to his house according to the facts, and then later it was sticking to a private warehouse. The question now I think we should all be asking is, where is this machine which has the capacity, the capability to illegally surveil all of us and interfere with our private communication?
Afenyo-Markin's people can answer that question.
I think we can leave the Martin Amidu judgment and the judges matter for next week. Yes.
Okay.
Where is it? Where is it? It must be with the state, because it's been bought. It's not going to be returned. We have it. Pegasus system.
And the state has taken full value for it. The state hasn't denied that.
No, let him answer that in 1 minute. Where is it?
That
people are concerned. Where is it?
The records have it that it was with Mr. Babakama.
It was taken to his arm.
No.
Now he's confirmed that.
In his submission, in the submission of counsel, he said it was there. We just received the text message that indeed it was there.
Yes, the warehouse.
No, he said it was there.
The court process confirms that it was in his house, and it was later taken to a private warehouse.
Yes. So he should tell us which private warehouse.
No, but he says that the BNI has taken it away. The BNI is a state institution, is a public institution.
So this is what he's saying.
Yeah, that is what he's saying. And that he wrote a witness statement. He put it in his witness statement.
So if Mr. Baba Kamara is saying that the equipment which was first with him, later taken to a private warehouse, has since been taken by the state.
You are mischaracterizing the
No, you said that Mr. Baba Kamara has confirmed through a text message that the equipment which
is the government using it, or the government is not using it?
The court record was with him.
Yes.
All right? And later found its way into a private warehouse.
No.
Which
from day one they were at the private warehouse.
Has since been handed over to the state.
Yes.
That is what he's saying.
Yes.
That is what he's saying.
Yes, that's what he has said. And he put in a witness statement.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So how can we have something which the law does not allow us to keep? What are we doing with it? Are we checking on people in this country illegally? Okay, Afenyo says he will not respond to me.
On national security grounds.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, this is where we can end the discussion. So we have two other issues, the Supreme Court judges and the Ayine decision and its implications. We will hope that Dr. Ayine will be gracious to grant us time next week so that we can deal with it. Thank you all very much. My guests have been Dr. Dominic Ayine and Afenyo-Markin. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.